In this lesson, I want to introduce you to what might be my favorite yoga pose, which is a low lunge that's called Anjaneyasana. So it's a lunge with your knee on the ground. And Anjaneyasana, I think, is actually a fairly accessible pose. I think most people can do it if you have yoga blocks. It makes it a lot easier to do this pose if you have some yoga blocks. And even if you're relatively flexible or more athletic, yoga blocks really help in this pose to make it just a little bit better form or a different form. There's different things you can do with the yoga blocks. So if you do not have yoga blocks, I suggest that you try to get a couple thick books. Unless you're really flexible or you've been doing yoga for a while or you know this pose. But if you're brand new to the pose or maybe a little bit over 50, yoga blocks can really come in handy, or books, just something to raise you up off the ground a little bit. So yeah, here we go. So we're gonna start off standing on our knees and go ahead, if you have yoga blocks, place them out in front of you. If you have books or something like that, see if you can get them to like a good 6 or 8 inch height. So maybe take a bit to pause the video, adjust yourself, and find yourself back here. So just reaching out in front of you, and we're going to start off by bringing the right foot forward in between the blocks. So if you do have any tenderness in your knees, you can make this easier by placing a towel or a thick blanket underneath your knees. So yeah, just make yourself comfortable here. So the right foot comes forward. Unlike the standing postures, the warrior postures, it's fine if your knee tracks past the ankle in Anjaneyasana, and it's just because we're not putting as much weight on the knee because the back knee is on the ground. And in certain ways, it actually makes this posture a little bit better if your knee is coming past the ankle. Having said that, if your posture is looking more like this, that's fine, that's great. There's no issues with that at all. So the blocks really help us to come up in the posture. If you don't have yoga blocks and you're more flexible, you can get by doing it with your hands on the ground like this. But if you do have blocks, see if you can make yourself really nice and tall. So you're stretching up through the spine. And just move your hips around a little bit, move them back and forth. So you're going to be really feeling this stretch through these hip flexors on this side as you come forward. And if you come back in this pose, you feel a stretch in the hamstrings on the right side. So just move back and forth a little bit here. So exhaling forward, inhaling back. And see if you could just feel the edges of your stretch in each direction. It doesn't have to be intense. We're just starting to move around a little bit here, just starting to wake things up. And then come back forward. And from here, we're going to come up into this posture, which is going to stretch out the hip flexors a little bit more. So there's 2 ways you can do this. You can bring the blocks back if you have issues with balance, and that should help. The other things that you can do to help with balance is make sure that the back foot is coming straight back. A lot of times people have a tendency to bring that foot over here, which is going to make it harder to balance. So make sure that back foot is coming straight back and really push the top of your back foot into the ground. If you can balance, go ahead and bring your hands to your hips and really work on engaging your core. The tendency in Anjaneyasana is to really lean forward here. But if you engage the core and lean back a little bit, you're really going to feel this stretch through here. This really stretches out the hip flexors and the psoas muscles, these muscles that tend to get really tight as we're sitting. And this is really, really good pose just for breathing practices. I do it as a pose in my Preparing for Breath class that really helps to open up the whole area around the diaphragm and the center of the body as well as the hip flexors. So maybe back off a little bit here, give your leg a little bit of a break, and then we'll come back into it for a moment. Sorry, in these classes where I'm explaining a posture, sometimes we hang out in the postures much longer than we would in a normal class. So coming back up, if you're still with me, if you're still able to, the full posture, if you're balanced, is to bring the arms up overhead. So and really stretch up through the fingertips. Make sure your shoulders aren't creeping up towards your ears. Again, sort of leaning back a little bit or engaging the core so you're really feeling that flex in the hip flexors, that stretch in the hip flexors. So let's go ahead and come out of this. So bring these blocks forward. Bring that right foot back. And maybe just move your legs around a little bit. Make it feel okay. Maybe you do need a towel under your knees if that was too long to hang out on one knee. So just make yourself comfortable before we move to the other side. So go ahead and step that left foot forward. Again, it's fine if your knee is tracking past the ankle because we're not putting much weight on the knee here at all. So again, in this, let's just go ahead and move back and forth a little bit. So inhaling back and exhaling forward. Trying to make your spine really nice and tall, especially as you're coming forward. Use the blocks to really stretch up so you're not just collapsing down in the spine. And just moving around a little bit here, feeling the edges of the stretches in each direction. If you really want to feel the hamstrings, bring the hips way back there. And just feeling a nice comfortable edge as you move forward as well. So let's hang out in this forward position. Again, really nice and tall here. Try to make your spine as straight as you can, just looking out ahead. If you're having any issues with balance, it's a good idea to find a point to focus on. Just something static in the room. Just stare at something, a spot on the carpet or the wall, something that's not moving. So let's go ahead and see if we can come up. The balancing, again, you want to make sure that that back foot is going straight back and really press the top of that back foot into the ground. That'll help you balance. If you can, bring your hands to your hips. And again, engage the core. See if you can sort of take the arch out of your lower back so that you're really feeling the stretch through the right hip flexors here. And breathing. And if this is working for you, if you're able to balance, let's go ahead and bring the hands up overhead, really stretching up through the fingertips. Again, engage the core, feel the stretch in those hip flexors. Make sure it's a comfortable stretch. If it's too intense, just back off a little bit, or you can even lean forward a little bit. Just make this work for your body. Find a nice, comfortable edge to your stretch. So let's go ahead and come out of this, bring the blocks forward, step that left foot back, and then slowly make your way up to standing. Shake your legs out a little bit, make sure that feels okay. And just to sort of counteract some of that stretching we did, just bring your knee up towards your chest, your right knee first. This will sort of flex the psoas muscles, the hip flexors a little bit, and then the left leg. And just do that a couple times. Just lifting those knees up. So there it is. That is Anjaneyasana. And I do throw it into a lot of my more advanced classes in chapter 3 and chapter 4, but it's a posture that I like to do a lot with my private yoga students, even if they're more limited with mobility, because it really is great to just open up these hip flexors. It's an area that tends to be really tight with most of us who sit on our bums most of the day, looking at our computers or driving or whatever we're doing. So yeah, there it is. And I will see you in the next class. Thank you.